In 2007, Justice dropped Cross. Some may say quite the pivotal album when it comes to electronic music production. I would agree, I'd be one of them. And I feel like it completely changed the standards on how we use compression and distortion within a mixdown. And so in today's video, I'm gonna break down how to create that gritty Ed Banger style energy, step by step, no gatekeeping, to get a result that sounds like this. So yeah, step by step, all the different processes that lead you to this end result drop right here. And then to start things off, building up the drums, would recommend sounds from like the 707, the Lindrum, or the DMX. You know, those classic drum machines from the 80s. It'll give a really authentic Justice sound. So for this, I use just honestly the 707. Classic 4 on the floor. With some shifted claps, notice they do not start on the grid. No, we want that pre-shift, that classic little sound before the actual snare kicks in. And you'll notice these like reverse things, which were super simple. I take just a selection of the clap, drag it to a new audio channel, reverse that, and then fade it in to suit. So it gives an extra pre-shift too. So yeah, basic 4 on the floor pattern, boom, shh, boom, shh. And to give that extra Justice energy, I'll layer that 707 kick drum with an acoustic kick drum underneath. So that boxy sound. Just gives it a little bit more character, and hear that a lot throughout Justice's tunes. And lastly, a little cheeky open real hi-hat towards the end. This will play on the last little 16th of the bar. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And it's this little off-kilter rhythmic trick I'll use a lot more on the drop. Instead of being on the beat, you just drag it off to the left once. A little spicy drum hack. That's a bit boring, but we can introduce the drum hit on the 16th to accompany this hi-hat, and we can also shift out the kick one placement as well. I feel like this is quite a Justice-y sounding thing. And we could introduce the hi-hat there as well. Yes, very spicy, very funky. Anyway, the processing of the drums. I'm going to keep it super basic. Reverb to start us off. Some multi-band dynamics, upward compression instead of normal compression. We're not squeezing, we're lifting. So you see these blue values in multi-band instead of these brown values on top. So instead of squishing all the drum elements, it lifts them up, just gives it a bit more fizzle, I think is the best word to describe it. A bit of parallel compression. So this is our normal compressor. Drop the threshold, increase the ratio, drop the attack, release. And it's absolutely getting slammed, and we can bump up that makeup gain. So it's just getting absolutely butchered, but the masterful thing is to blend this into our original sound. So it still sounds like the drums are getting overly compressed, but there's still a bit of body to them, and I feel like that gives off a really Justice-y sound. And lastly, a little bit of saturator. Bit more power to it. And that is the drums. Moving on to the big boys, we're talking bass here. Honestly, this basic as wavetable bass patch sounded amazing for this Justice sound, so I just honestly use that. And if you have wavetable in the Ableton, you can just find it under wavetable, and it is called Before the Plunge, I think. We'll filter that by bass. So literally just use that, and then of course a bit of sidechain from our drums. Super easy, but if you know early Justice, you know that electronic bass only makes up half of it, real bass makes up the other half, so you need some real bass samples. It's a bit of OTT to give it some squeeze. Bit of EQ8 to make it sound like it's coming out of an old school radio. No bass, no treble. And a little bit of distortion and saturation after that with raw. It just sounds so compressed and pushed through like a very small speaker, and that is the sound we're after. So then on to isolating the bass phrases that we want to use. That bit sounds great for a little ending. That bit sounds good for a little intermediate, just a random phrase that would be slotted in between some chops and some electronic bass. That could definitely work. And now onto the chops. Now what to look for is samples of other songs. I sampled my own song somehow and it worked really well. So little stabby bits like this. All kind of funky and yet French sounding in a way, which I like. Using OTT once more and a little bit of rounding on that EQ, no bass and a little bit of high cut. That just sounds a bit too modern and in your face for Justice. So no bass and, like I said, rounding off that treble. And of course sidechain later on. Next up is noise samples. And this sample, as I was going through my sample library, I came across this, I was like, this is just the sound, isn't it? That little riser noisy thing sounds like it's straight out of Genesis. Couple more things, Justice used a lot of vocal phrase, kind of chop isolated bits, and of course radio filter once again. Classic, and a sub drop, because honestly I don't know if Justice used sub drops, but it worked really well in my drop, so yeah, we're adding it in. Violin, staccato, down, 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 down on every beat. Super basic contact instrument. Doing 2 octaves. Sounded great, and by now you're probably understanding the processing theme that goes with these sounds for this drop. A little bit of EQ, kind of that radio filter, and a touch of OTT to really emphasize and push the sound further. Arrangement, probably the hardest thing to do. Close second would be sound selection. This is a very loose kind of bass pattern I established. Left heaps of gaps for different chops and noise samples and things like that. And you'll notice if we break down the grid to 16ths, it doesn't exactly start on the beat. So it starts right before the beat. Definitely playing that to my advantage, play with it here as well, and then that just in itself is such a Justice kind of bow bow. And then once again here, that doesn't start on the beat and doesn't start on the beat here, because if they did, it'd look like that, but no. So you definitely want to leave breaks in your bass patterns for other elements to play. If we just had bass in your face the entire time, wouldn't really give off that Justice sound. We want to add some chops, some rhythmic stabs, etc, in here. And once we've established that electronic bass, we can add our slap bass in, which we had before, and start to fill in the blanks of this pattern. So it's really a matter of different placements and finding out what works. So you notice we've still got some empty spaces here, which we're going to fill with different chops and noises, like I said before. And oh, would you look at that? It's right here. It's time to add some chops, definitely maximizing those 16ths, like I said before. So for example, if we had 16 of these bad boys that make up our bar, and 4 of them make up a beat, 1, 2, 3, 4. We've been emphasizing the 4th one a lot. We can emphasize the 2nd one, and we can emphasize the 4th one per every beat too. These 2 spots per beat just give it that magical extra funk. Now it's time to layer in some noise, which will add tension and release a lot. So for this drop, I'm using noise for 2 purposes. 1, to layer over a bass to give it a bit more energy, and for the 2nd, just a disrupting, really loud attack on your ears. So you'll see that here. Very cheeky, adding in a vocal as well at this point. Very super subtle, and we're very, very close to the final result here. All we need is those violins. And a sub drop in some empty places, just a little personal touch. And lastly, some sidechain, which you've no doubt seen on my processing chains already. Just from the drums, it's on the bass, it's on the real bass, it's on the chops, it's on pretty much everything, except the violins. And if you do all those steps, it should sound a little something like this. Thank you guys for watching, leave a like if you did enjoy it, and I'll catch you next time. Peace!